in, which means we will not shy away from any subject, no matter how taboo or uncomfortable, such as menopause, sex, libido, mental health and depression, difficulties with weight loss, and all the other topics that are important to us as we mature. We are getting into the primes of our lives, and so we want to be able to talk openly about these things. So thank you for tuning in and either watching or listening to the show. If you have any questions during the show, please call in and we will do our best to get you on the air to answer your questions. You can call the studio at 844 Studio 4 or 844 788 3464. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman. I'm the owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary located here in Cornelius. We are a compounding pharmacy with a focus on functional medicine. This means that my team and I, we make medications specifically formulated for you. We also provide holistic alternatives like supplements, vitamins, and much more. You can find out more about us by checking us out on Instagram and Facebook at Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary or our website at roserxboutique.com. I would like to introduce my guest co-host, Dr. Lexi Lain, Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine, who is the owner of Summit Vitality in Davidson. Welcome, Dr. Lexi, and thanks for being my co-host today.
Thank you for inviting me out.
Well, listen, let's get started. I want you to let our listeners know about your background and your practice, like what's your story?
Sure. So I am a naturopathic doctor, and I studied the field of medicine up in Seattle, and then I chased the sunshine here to fabulous North Carolina, where I set up shop in Davidson. And so being a naturopathic doctor, we really value a non-pharmaceutical approach. And so there's a lot of synergy with compounding pharmacists and food is medicine, so we're really about finding and treating the cause. And so it's a little confusing about, naturopathic medicine versus functional medicine. Folks, I'm just going to say same language, just a little bit of a different accent, I'll say.
Yes. Yeah. Tomato, like that?
Yes. Okay. Banana. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay. So also what I do know about you is that you are also a triathlete.
That is correct.
Okay. So let's talk through that because that, to me, that's just amazing. So talk us through.
Sure. So in early 2019, I had barely made 2,000 steps in one day because I was sitting so much. And I said, you know what? That Lake Norman YMCA is 3 minutes from my office. I have no choice, but no excuse, right? So, and I'm like, I need to get up and move because that's what I'm all about. So I actually went and discovered this banner that said train like a triathlete. So listen up. I went from barely 2,000 steps to now being 3 times half Ironman finisher.
Oh my goodness.
I got first place in a triathlon a few weeks ago, and then I am scheduled to do the Lake Davidson's triathlon coming up next week with Train.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm feeling a little kind of I need to get my act together, right? I think Bill, our producer, he feels the same way. Yeah, right? So
movement is life.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, that is awesome. So to our listeners, just as we always warn that some of the content may not be suitable for all audiences, and the information presented in this show is not intended to replace the advice of your healthcare provider. So the month of September, we are focusing on mental well-being, stressors that lead to mental health opportunities, and our body's ability to be resilient. And what I mean by resilient is how our bodies can recover from the insults that are thrown at it and get back on track. And there are internal or functional factors that can play into it that can allow the insults that affect us to lead to some of our mental health challenges. But our body's resilience is like a mental weapon to protect us. And this is why I'm an advocate for really opening up about our struggles, while also understanding that how we take care of ourselves can have a huge impact on our overall mental well-being. And we know that we have all these circumstances like hectic schedules, these additional stresses, family, no sleep. Oh, and we're also going through menopause. But with functional resilience, we can still recuperate without it taking the toll that it does when we are not in a good place internally. So we're going to dive into different subjects under this heading because there's so many things that are happening to us where we need some comfort, sometimes a little bit of validation, a sympathetic ear to let us know that we are not losing our minds and there is a way through. right?
Yeah, yeah. And and can you speak on that in terms of just in this fast-paced world and on demand,
Oh my gosh, yeah, a pill, yeah, okay, so there's something wrong, let's go to a pill, right? That's not
Yes.
we know that our listeners, our viewers, they are not about that, right? They are looking for something different, an alternative approach, not just going straight to a pill because that just is not our bodies are too what's the word I'm looking for? Too efficient for that, right? Like if we can look to other things before going there, and of course if you need it, right? That's down the
Absolutely.
right. That's not first line, right?
Right, right.
so
Yeah.
so
Yes. And that functional resilience, is that a little bit what you mean by that? Of like, sometimes you can't find functional resilience in a pill.
yeah, exactly, because you're not taking care of the root cause, right? You are basically putting a bandage on a situation, but you really need to look at, okay, what's going on in the inside so that, we're going to have stressors, right? We're going to go through things, but if our bodies aren't good, our bodies aren't ready to take that insult, then what are we doing? And that pill, what does that pill do? It masks an issue that can pop its head up at a different time, right? A different time in our lives when we get even older than we are now. And we're not old, I'm just saying.
Yes,
But,
yes.
you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So Dr. Lexi and I are going to start our month-long journey talking about factors to consider when it comes to mental well-being. And so, Dr. Lexi, I love to share fun facts with the audience.
Let's do it.
So, all right. And who knows? One of these could be the answer to one of our trivia questions later in the month.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yes, get some good gifts, right? So mental health fact number 1. By the year 2030, major depressive disorder will be the number one disability in the United States. Also, according to one study, 80% of people with major depressive disorder also have sleep disturbances. There was also a study that was put out by the NIH in which healthy individuals with no history of depressive disorders were given a bacterial infection, which caused sustained inflammation in their guts, which led to the emergence of classical depressive symptoms. Is that not crazy?
It's really sad.
Right?
Excuse the pun.
Yeah, I know. SAD. Yes.
Yes.
Right. So I think it's just it's a very clear connection with your gut and your mental awareness, your mental health, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
And also another little fun fact, diet is such an important puzzle piece to mental health that it has inspired a field of medicine known as nutritional psychiatry. Did you know that?
I actually did not know that.
Yeah, and I'm like Googling nutritional psychiatrists. I'm like, okay, so do we have any in Davidson?
Well, shoot, that would be me, right?
Yeah, right. Right.
I'm not
exactly.
a psychiatrist, however.
But really,
Yeah, right,
I'm
right.
like, so clearly,
It's a need.
there is a need. I mean, this is being created when it's already there, i.e.
Right,
you, right?
yes.
So it's already there.
But food and the brain and just that.
Yes.
Yes. Big
When
connection.
we come back, Dr. Lexi and I are going to dive into stress and its effects on our brains and therefore our mental well-being. Please stay with us and we will be back in a moment.
More of The Elle Show with Dr. Nicole Eastman, owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique. Straight ahead on WSIC.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Looking for a night of laughs? Mike Goodwin, who's been on America's Got Talent, is coming to Kane Center for the Arts here in Cornelius. Saturday, September 9th. Kane Center for the Arts' 2024 fall season. Comedian Mike Goodwin, Saturday, September 9th. For more info, visit kanearts.org. Apple picking at Kerrigan Farms is almost here. The apple picking at Kerrigan Farms is a very short window. September 5th through the 30th, apple picking at Kerrigan Farms. Only in September. Book your experience now at kerriganfarms.com. Leonard Skinnard and ZZ Top, the Sharp Dressed Simple Man Tour. this Friday at PNC Music Pavilion. Watch two iconic bands at a great venue, Leonard Skinner and ZZ Top, this Friday at PNC Pavilion. Have you ever been to Davidson's concerts at the Circles? This weekend you can go. Davidson's concert at the Circles will feature 80s Nation, an 80s tribute band. Concerts at the Circles, Jeton Street by Clean Juice and Davidson. NASCAR is back at Darlington this weekend. Xfinity race starts at 3:30 on Saturday and Cup Series at 6 p.m. on Sunday. Thanks again to Drum Landscape Supply in Statesville for the Days of Darlington ticket giveaway contest at WSIC. Have an event you would like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
This is Joe Berg from the WSIC News Weather Center. Beautiful sunny skies today, a high right around 80 degrees, and not a single chance for rain. Tonight we'll have mostly clear conditions and a low right around 57, so if you're out tonight, make sure you're bringing a jacket. And tomorrow we have clear skies and a high right around 82. This is Joe Berg from the WSIC News Weather Center.
Now more of The Elle Show with Dr. Nicole Eastman, owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to The Elle Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman, and I'm here with my guest, Dr. Lexi Lain. And we are jumping into stress and how it affects our mental health because of the impact on your brain. So Lexi, let's talk stress. I know from our conversations that stress is an area of focus for you in your practice. And so, because we know it can lead to so many things, including mental health issues. So what's your typical approach to that patient who comes in and is exhibiting signs of stress?
Sure, yeah. And, they're not necessarily going to say stress is their first thing. Normally it's going to be fatigue or anxiety or problems with sleep. So those are going to be your three main complaints. And so I boil stress down into physical stress, emotional stress, and then psychological stress. And so with a discovery call, which is complimentary, we go over their health goals. So what are you really trying to do? What do you want to focus on? And then as a naturopathic doctor, we do have the time to really get to know someone and to understand all the different layers that contribute to someone's stress. And so I describe it as a Jenga tower. And there's all these little blocks, from running, the kids around all their little sports, and then the pressures of the job, et cetera, et cetera. So the blocks get higher and higher, and then eventually we have a threshold. And so everybody's threshold is different, but it usually does present with fatigue and then that anxiety, but also depression, because, when your body is not being able to keep up with what you want it to do, it really makes you kind of upset, right? It's like, I'm not performing the way I used to perform. So that's what stress really looks like, and that's what people are usually reporting. And so the process is to understand the contributing factors, maybe do some testing to, figure some things out physiologically, and then we target supplementation, but then there's an element of coaching with that and giving people skills to manage the stress and helping them to become more resilient.
So you had mentioned so the 10-step process. So, and that's kind of what you were just going through.
Yes, okay. Yep. And a quick and dirty. That was the kind of the 10 step.
I was waiting on 10. I'm like counting. I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah. Don't count. But part of that 10 step is that, yes, we're getting to know you. There's an assessment. There's testing. All that jazz.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we defining as stress?
Okay, so I just kind of mentioned there's a few different categories of stress, but what we're going to define this as, it is a mental, emotional, physical threshold to where we are now at almost a breaking point. And so the stress is you're feeling stretched and you're almost like, I can't take much more. And that's where you're really hovering in that breaking point. And,
gotcha.
And that's where we're getting into burnout. So that fight or flight response, that's the acute stress.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, and stress doesn't have to be, for our listeners, stress doesn't have to be you get into a fight with somebody. That's not, you get into an argument, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
stress can come in many different forms, the stress to your body.
Yes. So that lack of sleep that you were, mentioning, that stresses the body if you're not feeding your body well. You heard I'm an athlete, so
Yep.
athletes can overtrain. And if you've been going to the gym because you've gone from 0 to 100 and you're pretending and thinking that you used to be what you used to be, you got to start slow. So overtraining can stress the body, but dehydration, all these pieces stress the body.
Yeah. So, can some of our mental bandwidth that we think is due to like hormonal issues, they can actually be rooted in stress, right?
Yes,
So,
yes, absolutely. It's change. It's change in the body.
Yeah.
And so drops in hormones certainly stress the body out.
Yes. So, okay. So, like we had talked before about, how men can see a drop in testosterone.
Yes.
Right. And so women see a drop in estrogen. And that when we were talking about those things,
yes,
we can talk about that can mimic depression.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that's right. Because we actually, so your sex hormones have receptors in the brain. And so when men are dropping in testosterone, they're going to look like low dopamine. And so they're going to lose that joy. They're going to get super irritable, lose the motivation, which is going to drive the wives crazy because they're like, just go out and do something. But men they're in that low dopamine state. So there's no motivation there. Women that drop in estrogen is going to look like serotonin deficiency. So there's your depression and your moodiness.
Yep.
And and then the drop in progesterone is going to contribute to anxiety because it's that GABA response. So your sex hormones absolutely contribute to brain health and mental health and well-being. So when you feel that menopause or andropause, and you do feel anxious, irritable, moody, all the things, mental health is a player in this. And just note that if your body is going through this biochemical change, you're going to have a psychological impact as well.
So just to bring this back, so hormonal imbalance can throw us off, but underlying that is an increased dysfunction within our bodies, right? That due to stress in which our hormones are actually reacting to. So our hormones don't want to be like, you think about somebody who, is not making estrogen and they're super young, right? So and they're having issues with that. Well, it's like an environment. Like what are your cells bathed in?
Yes.
And so your ovaries are probably like, I don't want to make estrogen in this environment. I don't want to have a baby in here.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So I usually use the example of, listen, your body doesn't know the difference between the pressures of life and a shark or a bear.
Yeah.
And so it's, or environmental fires, since that's, kind of current. So when the body senses it's in danger, it doesn't have time to reproduce. Who wants to, be intimate?
Yeah, right.
When so libido is going to drop under stress, and those sex hormones are going to drop because the body physiologically is shifting from supporting sex hormones and going into survival mode. And survival mode is anything from environmental survival that's real or pressures from life and work and the finances and whatever's on the news that you're watching.
Exactly.
Everything.
So personal story here. So I went into menopause very, very early. It was before I was in my 40s.
Which is a really, that's striking.
Right. So not once did anyone think about that maybe we should look into this because, functional medicine, that wasn't even it was out there, but it wasn't like.
Not like it is today.
Not like it is today, right? Yeah. So, I'm like, okay, clearly, like my brain and my ovaries were still working, but the issue, now I know the issue was not my hormones. It was the fact that my body was just not hospitable, right? So I was stressed out, working crazy, crazy, crazy hours, horrible diet, no sleep. I mean,
you were an executive woman for a corporation.
Yes, exactly. And that was my lifestyle, right? So, but I went into menopause. I'm like, oh my gosh, what in the world? But if I think the practice of what it is now, functional medicine was back then what it is now, I think that we would have realized that and maybe did different things and not automatically say, okay, we need to put you on some hormones.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and whenever you were sharing your story, Dr. Eastman, you had mentioned, that not getting any sleep in that environment was almost celebrated.
Yes. I mean, it was honestly that was like a badge of honor. Staying up all night, working, working, was like, well, I stayed up until 3 a.m. getting this spreadsheet done. I stayed up until, well, I did this. Well, I haven't seen my family in 2 days. So all of these things, all of these deprivations that were celebrated, right? But it was doing so much harm internally, right? And so here you have someone who's not even 40 going into menopause.
Yeah, and that's
Crazy.
that's a great example, unfortunately, on how stress can totally shut down that sex hormone pathway, and you have someone under 40, early menopause.
So sleep,
Yes.
sleep. I love to sleep. I still don't get enough, but I love to sleep. If they could make that an Olympic sport.
I fell asleep. Just kidding.
Right. And that needs to be an Olympic sport. I would take first place all day long, but of course, we don't have. I don't get enough. But do you find that many of your clients underestimate the importance of sleep?
Yeah, so the clients that come to me, they're usually well read and researched, and so they're coming to me going, I know sleep is supposed to be important, but I just can't sleep. So the people I usually see are frustrated that no matter what they try, they're not getting the sleep.
Well, and could it be that, we're talking about behaviors, right? Some of it's behaviors, like what are you doing before you go to bed? All of that stuff. And I remember thinking, okay, you know what? Maybe I should try to be more cognizant of what I'm doing a couple hours before bed. But my body had gotten into that rhythm of not getting sleep that it was difficult to even fall asleep. So you have to basically reset it. Reset.
Yes, resetting the circadian rhythm, which is where the value of supplementation can really help to help the. I almost say it's like setting the breakers whenever the power in the house goes out, and you have to go and you flip the breaker box. Well, supplementation can certainly support and help the circadian rhythms. Now we're talking about that stress and cortisol response as it competes with the sleepy melatonin. But back to your hormones component, when you do see the drop in hormones, that can also contribute to poor sleep too. But lifestyle, it's those darn short videos on social media. I mean, really, total hashtag time sink. And that light, and it's like
I know. You're like, wait a minute. You're like in a time warp continuum. You start, you're like, I'm here. 2 hours later, you're like, wait a minute.
Yes.
What happened?
And then it's 11:30, 11:45, and there's this little tiny voice that goes, sleep. I should be going to sleep.
Yes.
All right.
So, my goodness. So yes, but the importance of sleep just is we cannot belie how important it is.
Rest and digest. It's how our body heals.
Yes. And so when we get back from our break, we will continue this conversation and we'll see you then.
The Elle Show with Dr. Nicole Eastman, owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique, will return after this short break on WSIC.
Hey, this is Jeff McNeely. We hope you go out and visit the fine folks at G&M Milling Company in downtown beautiful Lowray, North Carolina. That's 4000 Taylorsville Highway, 704-873-5758. Give them a call or go visit for all your livestock needs, as far as feed or seed or whatever. They'll be glad to help you out. They're really good folks. I've known them for a long, long time. Go visit G&M Milling, 4000 Taylorsville Highway, Lowray, North Carolina.
This is Joe Berg from the WSIC News Weather Center. Beautiful sunny skies today, a high right around 80 degrees, and not a single chance for rain. Tonight we'll have mostly clear conditions and a low right around 57, so if you're out tonight, make sure you're bringing a jacket. And tomorrow we have clear skies and a high right around 82. This is Joe Berg from the WSIC News Weather Center.
Wake up, people. You are optimizing every waking hour of your life. From carpooling kids, to work, to friends, and everything in between. You have to get sleep and a bed that can perform as well as you do. Meet the next generation Sleep Number Smart Bed. It effortlessly adjusts to your shape, position, and movements, learning how you sleep, so you learn to sleep better, night after night. Sleep next level, only from Sleep Number.
Don't miss our Labor Day special. Save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition Smart Bed, plus free delivery when you add a base. Ends Labor Day.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Folks, you know Randy Marion sells vehicles the King of Price way, but did you know our service department? We service vehicles the King of Price way. We sell tires, we sell brakes, we sell batteries, we sell the maintenance. We help you keep your vehicle on the road safe, ready to drive. Whatever the season is, Randy Marion service departments have you covered. Come see us today because, folks, again, you know we sell the King of Price way and we do service the King of Price way.
King of Price, RandyMarionStatesville.com.
Black Powder Coffee is celebrating their 10th anniversary with a medium dark roast blend of Indonesian and South American coffee beans. Enjoy the full-bodied natural flavor notes of chocolate with a bright finish. Get Black Powder Coffee's new anniversary blend today at Black Powder Coffee, 261 Rolling Hill Road, Mooresville, or participating retailers everywhere. Black Powder Coffee.
Breaking the silence and shattering the stereotypes surrounding women aging. It's The Elle Show with Dr. Nicole Eastman on WSIC.
Welcome back to The Elle Show, where I am here with my guest host, Dr. Lexi Lain. And while we were on break, we did get a question from William in Statesville. William, condolences for your loss. He lost his wife earlier this year, and he is looking for just some ways to help his family, his daughter, his mother, to really cope that sort of stress. So, Dr. Lexi, what would you have to say?
Yeah, and thank you so much for the call, William, and so sorry for the loss. So this is a really, really important thing to bring up because grief and depression are two different things. Grief is I describe it as it's the price we pay for love and loving someone wholeheartedly, or a furry friend, and it hurts. It genuinely hurts. And the grieving process, that journey is not a place to get stuck in, but it's a journey, and to move through that and to understand the different stages of grief. That's a quick Google search on the 6-7 stages of grief. There's a few others, but understanding those stages to understand where your loved ones are, because you're all probably going to express it a little bit differently.
Yes.
So
and cycle through those stages differently. Yes,
absolutely. And that's another piece, is that you're going to cycle through the stages on your own time.
Yes.
So even if someone says, well, they died 6 months to a year ago, you should be over this. Please do not should on people, because your journey is your own.
Yes.
And if it takes a year to 2 years, 3 years, it doesn't matter so long as you're moving through it. Now, if you're really, really struggling and quality of life is going down, then obviously that's when you're going to be reaching out. And that's where maybe some depression is creeping in. But they are separate. And I hope that helps. But just know that you know, it's going to look different for people.
Yeah, and something else that you had mentioned as well, just asking your daughter, asking your mother, where, what do you need? What can I do?
Yes,
just being there, just that offer sometimes helps to just make you feel, it adds just a little more
Yes,
You
yeah,
know?
that hey, I am here with you on this
Yes.
journey. You
Yes.
are not
You are
alone.
not
And
alone.
that for mental
Mm-hmm.
health, grief, depression, anxiety, that goes along for any
Yes.
of it.
Yes.
Hey, how
Mm-hmm.
you doing? What do you need right now?
Right.
How can I serve you?
Mm-hmm. What can
And
I do?
let's have an open discussion.
Absolutely.
And they will
Absolutely.
love you for it.
William, I thank you so much for that call, and I hope that we answered the call. We answered your question. If you have any further questions at all, you can feel free to reach out to either myself or Dr. Lexi. We'll be giving some information on our contact when we are closing up the show. So let's go ahead and move into nutrition,
Woohoo!
nutrition, and the gut, and how that affects our mental health. So, Lexi, okay, be a little cliche here. You got to eat your veggies.
Yes.
Do you remember that commercial? It was I forget the name of the spaghetti. It was a pasta where the pasta was made with veggies, and the mom was in the kitchen, and the kids were like, "Oh, this is amazing," and the dad says like, "Oh, that's the pasta with," and he's about to say veggies, and she's rattling the pots and whatnot.
I'm sorry, I might have missed that one.
It was a
But I
super funny
trust you.
commercial. Yes, super funny commercial. But we laugh at it.
Yes.
But it's so important. I mean, that's exactly what we need in order to make sure that our body and brain can run. Right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Yeah, I actually, in school, we had an environmental medicine professor who, oh my gosh, when you were sitting through the lectures, you just did not even want to go outside because of the toxic world we live in. And I'm sure our
Yes.
faces were like, oh my gosh, we're
Yes.
never going to survive. And he would always end the lectures with, eat your vegetables, they will save you.
Oh my gosh. I mean, really, when you think about it, I know that with my daughters, and I'm not putting you guys on blast. Sorry, ladies, but they are horrible with my oldest is the worst, but anything that starts with a V, not interested, And so I'm like, you know what? I mean, we got to figure something out because we got to make sure that you're okay. I mean, you're growing, and we want to make sure that you're getting the things that you need, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
it's just crazy. But again, there are ways to get your veggies in.
And a little bit of a gratuity green stuff on the plate. I'm sorry, but that doesn't quite count. It can count a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll give you a C for that one.
Yeah.
Yes. But I really want to see, a cup to a cup and a half at least of veggies, 8 servings of vegetables a day. When you really think about that, it's even hard for me sometimes to get that in. And so just a few little things, because I know, some of the why people out there, what's up with the vegetables? Well, they do provide those building blocks, and they are so full of antioxidants and fiber,
Yes.
which fiber is going to get into the gut health component.
Yep. Absolutely.
Fiber binds up to all those excess hormones we don't want. It
Yep.
binds up to the toxins we don't want. All the excess cholesterol. We got to keep our bowels moving.
Yep.
And they are anti-inflammatory. And so if you're achy and all that, vegetables do really up the game to helping you to feel better, more energized, thinking clearer.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone through a cleanse and noticed how that improved your sleep?
Yes, I have. It improved my sleep, my skin, like all kinds. Yes.
Everything, mood,
Yes.
ability
Yes.
to tolerate stress,
Yes.
brain health.
There.
Uh,
People, I
Is
hope
that
you're
the
listening.
mic? The mic drop.
Yeah, that's just drop the mic and walk out. Okay, that's so one of these building blocks is folate,
Yes.
right? So the dietary folate that we need. So we're eating the vegetables in order to get that dietary folate, right?
Yes.
So we talk about, and mothers, whenever you're getting pregnant, or when you're pregnant, we're talking about, okay, we need to make sure you're getting your folic acid and things like that.
Yes.
There's a reason
yes.
why.
Right. For the brain development and the nervous system development. Yep. So that folate is definitely an important piece to that.
Right. So I'll tell you that it has been suggested that, well, maybe I don't need as many leafy greens, like just, getting the salads and whatnot. I can just do maybe a green drink I'm not saying that that's what I do. I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
I'm just, yeah, it's not me. Somebody else said that.
Okay,
so,
sure.
yeah, green drinks. So how do you feel about the green drinks?
All right, so green drinks are fine, but they shouldn't be a standalone. There are going to be some values to the green drink in terms of, just getting nutrients in you fast. But only one fruit, if even a fruit, because sometimes people are confusing green drinks with smoothies, and they're throwing in a lot of fruit, and so that's one thing. And then two is because you're taking away that fiber, you're going to actually be spiking blood sugar, possibly. So you have to kind of watch those green drinks and the sugar content in them, because they can sometimes be deceiving. Even though it's green doesn't necessarily mean it is sugar free. And so watching the glucose, especially if you're having issues in that. So I really am a whole foodist. So I would prefer you to eat the whole food as opposed to drinking the food. But drinking the food can absolutely be good for people who have just really inflamed GI tracts, and they really need those nutrients fast. So there's some value to the green drinks, but it shouldn't be the only source of your veggies.
So your recommendations are how many green vegetables should we be eating?
Well, so I would vote for more. Let's just get you to eat vegetables.
Yeah,
Eight servings of them a day.
Yes.
Okay, so that's, if we was 2 servings a meal, that's about 6 if you eat 3 times a day, and then you're going to snack on some veggies. So really, 8 servings is actually, that's a tall order.
Yeah.
So maybe you do have that green drink in the morning. And colorful. So, but the green leafies, try to have some green leafies for most of your meals if you can, like dinner and lunch. And then for your morning green drink is probably going to have some spinach or some sort of green leafy in there.
Yeah.
And then I like to saute, let's just say you do eggs with sauteed vegetables, but I always like to throw in a dark green leafy, even in a breakfast dish too.
So what about V8s?
Yes.
So that in my head, I like V8s. I do.
Yes.
But I'll tell you that I'm so thirsty after drinking a V8, because I typically am not getting a low sodium, V8. So even though, to your point, we have these drinks that are available to us, but are we actually getting the full benefit? Because we're adding these other things on that we really don't need.
Right.
Yeah,
and the sodium component, because that higher sodium content is going to make you more thirsty, because the salt, the body wants to dilute that. But that can be really great for hydration after a long run or being out in this heat. So, the V8 could be good.
Yes.
But yes, watch your drinks, because even though they are healthy, that ingredient list will be revealing to you.
So there is MTHR.
MTHFR, yes.
Okay, so give me a quick run about MTHR.
Yeah, okay, so here's the deal. All right, so folate and B12, we like to do relay races. So basically there is, we're going to call it the methyl group, or the pin.
Okay.
So imagine that folate is grabbing onto a pin, it's the baton in the race, and it has to run around the track, and it's going to give that baton to B12. Well, here's the thing, is that people who have issues with this MTHFR, it's a genetic mutation, they're not grabbing onto the pin. So folate's actually dropping the pin, and it's not being able to pass it to B12 very well. So we can actually test to see, hey, no matter what you're eating, are you activating it okay? And if not, then supplementation is required.
Gotcha. Okay, so when we get back, we are going to continue our discussion on the gut and the brain, and then we'll go into some questions. We will see you all when you get back.
The Elle Show with Dr. Nicole Eastman, owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique, will return after this short break on WSIC.
Listen up, Carolinas. It's the Labor Day sales event at Lake Norman Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Save up to $12,000 off MSRP on new vehicles. We guarantee to beat any deal in the nation. LakeNormanChrysler.com.
Go anywhere else. This is Joe Berg from the WSIC News Weather Center. Beautiful sunny skies today, a high right around 80 degrees, and not a single chance for rain. Tonight we'll have mostly clear conditions and a low right around 57, so if you're out tonight, make sure you're bringing a jacket. And tomorrow, we have clear skies and a high right around 82. This is Joe Berg from the WSIC News Weather Center.
Revitalize your landscape with ease. Experience hassle-free transformations with Drum Landscape Supply's swift and reliable delivery service. Visit drumlandscapesupply.com today. Drum Landscape Supply, your local one-stop landscape shop.
To some, this might sound like a typical family dog. But at Dog Chow, we know that for a veteran suffering from PTSD, this could be the sound of life-saving therapy.
Thanks, Betty.
That's why we've made it our mission to connect every military hero in need with a canine hero of their own. To learn about the simple ways you can help Dog Chow in our mission, visit dogchow.com/veterans.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Call now to speak with Dr. Nicole Eastman at 844-STUDIO-4. It's the Elle Show on WSIC.
Welcome back to the Elle Show. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman, and I'm here with my guest co-host, Dr. Lexi Lain. We are in the home stretch here, Dr. Lexi.
Woo, having so much fun.
I know. I hate it to be over. So when we went to break, we were talking about MTHR, so the importance of what it does. And so, of course, in previous shows, we have discussed just the importance of just the gut in general, right? But the brain and how you feel, I hope people are getting that is so interrelated. One of my fun facts actually on my previous show, and also one of my trivia questions was about what is produced in the gut. One of those things was serotonin.
Yes.
Right? So, I mean, when we're talking about feeling good and we're talking about, motivation and mood and those sorts of things, let's look at our gut, right?
Yes.
So again, super important, people. If you get nothing else, like I say in every show, gut health is so very, very, very important. I do want to touch on something before we get to questions, though. I think this is important, and I think a lot of people want to know about this. Food sensitivities and gluten. Okay,
yes.
so so what about food sensitivities?
Yes. Okay. So, first of all, I am a huge proponent of identifying and testing for food sensitivities because I've seen so many cases where we see foods that are healthy and not gluten, and they are actually triggering the person. And so, by identifying that, we take it out, and then they actually do remarkably better.
Yeah.
So there is that, and when our guts are more inflamed they're more inflamed than they used to be. And, our microbiome has declined over time. So there's going to be trends on like, well, why wasn't gluten such a big deal in the past? And we've got the glyphosate issue with the pesticides.
Yeah, with the pesticides.
Yes, that's right. So there's many components to this story, but food sensitivities, the way I describe it with people and how it relates to brain is that, let's just say you eat a food and it upsets the tummy and the body gets a little upset. And so that information goes up to the brain and the brain gets excited and goes, oh my gosh, there's something going on down there.
Yep.
And so it gets excited. And that excitement is actually that fight or flight response, which then triggers cortisol, which it triggers more inflammation and perpetuates that, but it activates an excited brain, which is why when we pull gluten out, it can actually calm down anxiety and stress. So that's just like one example. Also, Dairy and gluten, again, we've got the environmental toxins that are playing into the food story. And we just have a culture where we're having so much bread and so much cheese and ice cream.
Yummy. Okay,
all
but
the things,
yes,
right?
right.
And so is it because we're having so much of it in combination with the fact that they're tainted and common anyway?
Yes.
So when we do pull these higher sensitive foods out, we do actually see brain inflammation calming down, which that means stabilized mood.
So there is the proponent for, regardless of whether or not you have an issue with gluten, there is a reason why you may want to exclude it from your diet regardless.
Yeah, or explore it, so that's what I like to say too is, especially with young people is, let's go through an experiment. And, so really the experiment, you have to be 100% no cheating for at least 2 to 3 weeks to really allow the body to respond. And by the end of that 2 to 3 weeks, people should see and experience a shift. And more times than not, they do.
Yes. Well, let's move on to, I really want to get to a couple of these questions,
yeah, go for
okay? So one of the questions that I received is, so should I not be on my antidepressant? So this is what I'll say. This is not a question that has an easy answer to it. This is something that, you want to talk to your doctor, but you also should look at your behaviors. If your diet is bad and you're not getting any sleep and your guts and knots all the time, that's not helping your brain. So when we talk about, again, that pill, that quick fix, sometimes there are things that we can do in our behaviors that can, of course, subvert us having to use an antidepressant. Not saying that it's not warranted at times, right? Because times it may be warranted, right? But that's my overall answer. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not antidepressant, especially for the individual that truly needs it,
right.
And so it is truly a case by case question. And so we want to get those foundations in place, but it isn't always easy, and it's not for everybody. They don't want to be compliant, try to get a teenager, an early 20 something to eat whole foods and exercise and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, no, forget it. Now that not all teens are this way, they're all on board, but some teens, I'm using teens as an example because sometimes I'll have a parent come in and say, I really don't want my child on this, but actually it might serve them really well, especially when they're about to go off to college.
Right.
And, so antidepressants are not bad. They are a tool. They are a very useful tool, especially when you're in a real low point. And for some people, they absolutely need it to function. But don't forget about the foundations, because those have to be in place regardless.
Exactly. I second that. Yeah. So we want to set our children up for success when they're growing up, right? And so we don't want to make it more difficult for them, right?
Yes,
so if there is a need, we want to answer the call, right? But like you said, we want to have those other things in place as well, right? So, okay, next question. So this question came from a male caller, and it says, okay, it bothers me that my wife, when she is stressed, has no interest in sex at all. I'm there for her. I listen. I try to make it better, but it is so far from her mind. However, when I'm stressed and she wants to be intimate, I gladly oblige. Also, I don't know when we are going to be intimate again, so I jump on the opportunity. What is going on? Please help. Okay, so couple things here. Women and men deal with stress differently. We take things in a little bit differently, and maybe we're not able to compartmentalize as well as, say, a man. Our brains, right? They're just the way our brains are bathed in estrogen, their brains are bathed in testosterone, right?
Yes.
That if she is stressed, we want to figure out why she's stressed, right? And so come at it from the approach of, okay, so the end game shouldn't be, okay, the intimacy, right? And we had another show where we talked about what does intimacy look like. Does intimacy have to be, what we think it, penetration? It doesn't have to be that. It could just be cuddling, right? So what does intimacy look like between, the partnership, right? But I think it's important to have a conversation with her around, okay, what's going on? Like listening to her. You never know. I'm certain that she is not deliberately saying, I just, don't, want to be with my husband. I am sure that it's probably something along the lines of maybe that's not able to be identified, possibly.
Sure.
Hormones. We always go back to hormones, right? Hormones. That is real. That's real.
Yeah.
And it could be something that she wants to get you and her have that conversation too. Of course, have the conversation around what you're going to do to work on this together. But communication is huge.
Yeah. And I actually have a couple of things with that. Number one is, when was the last time they had date night? So the chivalry, of women, we've got to be warmed up,
Yeah, exactly.
Let me shave my
date
legs
me.
and
Date me.
date me.
Yeah.
And, take me out. And if she's like, oh, I'm really tired, then that's where that conversation can happen, where it's, honey, I miss you, and
Yes.
and I really want to be with you in this way, and being a little bit more emotional about it. And then I thought about the love languages.
Yes.
And, it's like, what are those love languages that your partner has that maybe you need to revisit to kind of wake up that excitement again? And, okay, there is the hormonal drop that contributes, the dry vagina, all of the things that you've talked about.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we do want to dress up, put on, and have some chivalry and date me,
Yes. Yes.
Give us the warm up,
the foreplay, the all day foreplay, that thing, call me, check on me, see how I'm doing. All that stuff.
Bring some excitement back into it. And that might help as well.
Yes. Well, so just really quickly, we didn't get to this question of resilience, but I think that we talked about it earlier in the show. So I'm going to forego that question. And we'll just keep it moving. We're about to end the show. So, again, as always, we're so glad that you all have been with us today listening. It's just an amazing time that we have to be here on the show, talking with you all about all of these different subjects. And we're in I think this is our 10th episode. Bill, is this our 10th episode? Yeah, this is our 10th episode. And so, being able to really talk through all of these very important issues on the air is an amazing thing to be able to do. And honestly, when we think about what ways we can help, I know I'm kind of tripping over my words here, but I want to get the right words. Any way that we can help our sisters and their husbands and their partners to make their lives better, that is what we are here to do. So ladies, Dr. Lain and I, we are so glad that you were listening today. And men, we're so glad that you were listening today. I want Dr. Lexi to tell you how you can get in touch with her so that you can find out more about what she does.
Sure. You can visit my website at summitvitality.com or find me online at any social media at Dr. Lexi Lain. So it's DrLexiLain.
Wonderful. Thanks again to all of our listeners. And I can't wait to spend this time with you again next week. We want you to have a very fun and safe holiday weekend. Take care.
The new 105.9 100.7